And hello and welcome to Identerati Office Hours. I'm your host, Mike Schwartz, founder of Glue. And this week we are going to talk about an exciting new card that combines both physical access and logical access, which I think has been a goal of the identity industry for many years. And so I'm excited to introduce Mike and Darren from Sentry. And why don't I just start this with a quick round of intros. Darren, maybe you could give us a quick intro. How do you find yourself at Sentry?
Absolutely. A little background on me is I've currently live in Richmond, Virginia. I grew up outside of Pennsylvania, and I've been in the security industry for about 34 years. On the integration side, majority of that in the last 4.5 years, I've been with Sentry on the biometric product. Very fortunate to be the SVP with the company and providing solutions to a lot of our customers out there who are trying to fix the identity problem and absolute verification of individuals.
And so, Mike, how did you find yourself representing the Holy Grail of physical and logical access cards?
Well, I grew up in Houston area and I've lived in Atlanta and Nashville and Memphis, and worked for Dell for a handful of years, and then partners of Dell's. And in the identity space, I've worked with Simio, Secret Double Octopus, and then now Sentry. And I'm bringing all that experience together to lead our cybersecurity side and our channel side. And I've been on both sides of the coin there, be it channel or direct. And I've been with Sentry a little over a year now, about a year and 2 or 3 months.
So I just want to actually show the card really quickly. This is from your website. And one interesting thing to note is that the card has a thumbprint reader on it. So when you present the card for physical or logical access, you actually put your thumbprint on the card. Maybe we'll start with, let me go back to unsharing it. So Mike, maybe we'll start with you. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about the background. How did this card get developed? What's the history of this card?
This card started with an idea based off of the internals of our credit card business. We've got a very strong, healthy credit card business where we actually build the internals of a card and then provide them to card providers. And the idea started to come, well, okay, we can get into the access business. And then the cybersecurity business started to really pick up in the last 10 years or so. And the company had the forethought of putting these two together, because there has been a convergence of logical and physical security coming, and we're at the tip of that spear. And so we've been doing this since about 2013, if I remember right. But Darren, do you want to add anything?
Sure. So really what took us into the position we are now is we do something that nobody else in the world does, and we do a process of molecularly bonding cards. Today, if you take your existing access control card, you can stick a knife in there, peel it apart, and get to the electronics. So part of what we were building is molecularly bonded cards. So believe it or not, this card is heated up to 280 degrees for 38 minutes at 100 PSI. And this card is molecularly bound, so you can't pull it apart to get the electronics. And for those of you, Mike, what's a very interesting question is you'll notice all these electronics, there is a battery that's going away, and we'll show you the new one, but all of this should melt and blow up at 280 degrees for 38 minutes. And that's what's one of our incredible patents, is our ability to do this. So that's really what led us into this world of security and air gap solutions, because nobody else can do this and get to that. So.
And this card also has an antenna in it, right?
Multiple.
Mike, can you talk about, what are all of these antennas the same, or mostly a logical access guy, I don't know a ton about the physical access. How does that part of the card work?
Well, you're asking about the physical side of the business. That is Darren's expertise. So
okay,
I'll throw it back over to him.
Let's jump in. is actually there's multiple antennas in this card for multiple different reasons. In this case, this card, you can see we've got a CIS antenna. We also can load the SIO, the HID chip, or the EV2, Des for MyFair on the chip here. But there's multiple antennas around here to do different things. Some of them are power harvesting antennas. A few of them are NFC antennas. And then obviously we've got the communication antennas, all doing their own independent job in our security portion.
Interesting. What have been some of the early use cases for this?
That's great question. A lot of our use cases are started off really in the physical world, because today, as you know, when you have a typical card, you walk up to a door. If this card gets lost, stolen, it can be shared. Anybody uses it. And in our world today, everybody always says, let's run a report to see who came in the door. And Mike, the falsity of that is you're really never knowing who came in the door. It's you know what card was at the door. And that's why customers spend thousands of dollars to put cameras up at doors to verify who was actually at the door when the card was presented. And it's a very good thing when you have to go back and react to a problem, but you have to know a problem happened to go back and look for it. What we have built is our card with our biometric sensor on here. The card only works at the door for the individual that's enrolled on it. It can't be shared. If it's lost or stolen, it's invalid. And if you'd like, when you get a chance, I can show you some examples of that when you're ready, Mike.
I was researching this problem a little bit myself, and I asked my daughter, who goes to UT Austin, if she actually ever shares her card. And I was sort of distressed to find out that card sharing was rampant on campus. Like, she was saying that students were giving their card because some buildings or libraries or lounges were only open to certain students of certain colleges. So there was a whole ecosystem of card swapping going on. It led me to believe that actually probably the building managers had very little idea of the identity of the people who were actually going in.
So, Mike, I'd love to build upon what you said. I had two students that went to Virginia Tech University, and I approached them about the card, and their first thing says is, we're very secure. And they said, we are. They said they moved from cards. So, Mike, my daughter, when she went first, she used to drop her card out the window when I visited so I could get in the building and come visit her without her walking down to let me in. And then they said, well, we moved to mobile credentials. And I said, that was great, because my son was at that point, and he used to drop his phone down to me so I could use his phone to get in the building. So, Mike, did we lose Mike?
He looks stunned.
Mike looks frozen.
Oh, no.
Can't be me. It can't be you, because we're both still on.
Oh, Mike.
I think we shocked him.
Uh-oh.
For all of you still on the call, let's hold on a second. Mike is having some technical difficulties, and Mike will be right back. While we're still...
Yeah, go ahead.
We'll give you a little example while we're waiting for Mike to come back. In today's world, when you take a card, you hold it to the reader, it beeps. Again, it doesn't care. The security of this is today, we don't need to change the readers. The readers don't even know it. With our card, you'll notice when you put the card at the reader, it does absolutely nothing until you put your finger on there to verify it's you. The card's doing all the work. The PACS, or access control system, regardless of what it is, doesn't care what you're using. As long as we match the technology in the cards to the readers, we're golden. We actually have cards that have multiple technologies in it. One of our examples is a card that's got HID on it. It's got Leaf on it. It's got Legic on it. It's got Asa Abla on it. And it's got ICT on it, as well as FIDO 2, all in one single card. Okay.
Oh, we got questions.
What prevents someone from using their Flipper Zero? That's a great question. So here's your example. If a card reader can't read our card, how can a flipper read our card? There's no technology. Everything is secured. And the only time the card works is at the reader when it's put to the reader. The card does not work otherwise. So even if I walk around and I hold the card like this, the card is not functioning. It has to be present at the reader. And to add security, as you're all aware, when a card is placed at the reader, the card binds to the reader. It's bound. So if you've taken 3 or 4 cards, put them at a reader, you'll notice only one card reads. So the only way you can't take a flipper zero to it because the card is now bound to the reader. Now, let's not kid ourselves. There are certain ways if the individual who owns the card is looking to try and get in, and I want to share it, obviously there's ways I could go about depending on the encryption types on the card if they can be read by the flipper zero. But other than that, if this card is lost, found, it can't be shared, I can't give it to you to use. And again, any device, I don't care if it's a flipper zero, any device, the card is secured right now. There's nothing that can be done. There's no technology at all that can read it. It's actually turned off.
And Darren, go a little deeper into how the identity never leaves the card and there's no back-end database.
1 second. Yes, this is a FIDO2 capable card. We are a FIDO2 passkey partner with Authenticate and FIDO2. So yes, ours works and it's biometrically protected. Mike, do you want to just post so that Mike Schwartz sees that we're on and still moving through somewhat?
Yep.
So yes, so today I use this card to log on to any FIDO2 application, Microsoft, Office 365, login.gov, any of my banking applications, Salesforce, anywhere that takes passkey. And here's the difference. As an asymmetrical key, which FIDO2 is, it's fantastic, but the problem with everybody, most people's FIDO2 solutions is it can be shared. This cannot be shared, lent out, or loaned. What's important for everybody, and I'm sure it's a question out there, and I'll do a little jump, is today, for third-party systems, think of all of your PAC systems, you have to go pay licenses, and you've got to have a server, and you've got to have software to store everything. I don't care if you're using Linnell, Genetec, Honeywell, S2. We work with all of them without any software, without any APIs, without any storage. Because what we're doing is we're taking this card, and the card works just like your card does today. Just like your HID card, you're typing the number that's on the back of the card into your system, just like HID or Legic or Leaf. Okay? The difference is we keep the card secured so it can't be used until that point. Okay? So to enroll, there's Mike.
Sorry about that. I'm not sure. That never happened before. So far,
we did good. We kept going, and we got some questions here.
But I heard you guys keep going on LinkedIn.
As far as decentralized, to answer your question, there's no software, there's no server, there's no APIs, and for those of you with Genetec and Linnell, there's no licenses because you're just putting the card number in as you normally would. The card is protecting the information from the reader. All of this is done on a decentralized solution. Those of you who are familiar with GDPR and BIPA and CCPA. Literally, once you put the card in enrollment mode, I'll do it this way, you're actually enrolling directly on the card. As you see, I leave my finger there. It'll take about 6 samples per finger. Once I'm done this enrollment, this card will be permanently, there it goes, flashed, it's done that finger. I will now do this finger. We don't care what 2 fingers you use, as long as we recommend 1 per hand. We have found the thumb is typically the best finger for use with the reader. This card is now permanently locked to me. So here's the key, permanently locked to me. I can't change the fingerprints. I can't change the fingers. If this card is used, there's no plausible deniability, it's me. And the plausible deniability is very important here. Mike Schwartz and I were talking a little earlier, and Mike asked me a really good question, Mike, and it was about identity. Everywhere in the security world, we talk about identity. And Mike Schwartz, I'm asking you when I say Mike. Mike, could you do me a favor and share your identity with me?
Well, okay, I finally got my audio and video
Mike,
back.
Just real quick with identity, you can't share your identity with me because it's you, correct, Mike?
Right. So, well, I like where you're going with this, and the idea is that because enrollment can only happen once, therefore I know that the card that was presented is tied to that original identity that was enrolled. So I'm with you on this. Now remember, don't conflate identity with claims because that card is only really an authentication card. It's not telling me first name, last name, email address, any status. And also the card isn't really asserted by any authority. So although I can uniquely identify you, so I don't really want to get into sort of the it's a single piece as an authentication factor. I agree with you that it is a way to consistently identify somebody, but it is really I think it's a good feature that you can implement in hardware that maybe is harder to implement in software in a phone, and is also sort of a differentiator versus other devices. For example, if you can reset the firmware on the device and re-enroll another fingerprint, then
it's an air gap solution. There's no access. We've been through FBI testing as well. There's no way to get to the inside, get to the firmware or the card because it's a sealed molecularly bound card without destroying it, and we've been tested on that. So,
how do you guys do your enrollment demos? Do you have to have a stack of cards because you can only enroll once?
We make
or you have some secret
cards.
way to reset it?
No, we have special cards with what's called demo firmware on there, so that there's a trick to resetting them. But there's cards with production firmware. Once the firmware is written, it actually, after you enroll, it destroys itself, so you can't use it.
That's good. Yeah, lest you be like, really need a big stack of cards there, because I'm sure you guys do a lot of demos.
Well, we do. And then we also have, Mike, a visitor contractor card. Yeah. So when the person enrolls their fingers as a visitor contractor, the card's rolled to them and permanently locked to them. And then you have a special device that is via firmware is locked to your card. So you keep it in the vault and you put it on the card and it resets the card for another use of a contractor or visitor. But without the special firmware on this device and the firmware in the card matching in keys, it won't reset it.
Right. I do think it's an important point to be made because I think people forget about the care that goes into handing the card to the right person. If there's a breakdown in anywhere of this process, if I mail the card out and I'm not sure who really received the card, is it really so? Depending upon how much care you implement in your identity management process, from enrollment to identity proofing to issuance, you can make this a very strong credential.
So we have done that, and we're in the process of upping that up, Mike. It's a great lead for us. But if you're familiar with KYE and KYC, which is know your employee and know your customer, part of what we're working with and we're about ready to release is you will actually do that on your phone today. You'll go on, you'll do a liveness. It does a homographic verification of you. It does your liveness. It scans your driver's license or your passport. Once that is completed, we verify that you are who you are. The software allows you then to enroll on the card. You can't enroll on the card until that is completed. Now, the other thing is, just like I showed before you got on, Mike, enrollment, a lot of our customers today actually do Teams and WebEx enrollment, where they'll send out the card, they'll call the person on the phone, and they'll enroll while they're watching the I know you, I trust you, you're my boss.
Yeah.
You'll do the enrollment, then they'll put it on in the access control and the logical side as well. So depending on the policies they want to build, there's a lot of flexibility to do what they need to ensure that person, and they're not just mailing out a card and hoping the right person gets it.
Right. So so let's pivot to the logical access side. Mike, have you seen adoption of passkeys and FIDO2? And are there any use cases yet for using the FIDO2 interfaces, not the physical card interfaces?
Oh, most definitely. Yes. We've seen a big uptick in interest in sales in the FIDO2 arena. In fact, we've started offering a FIDO2 only card that, for people who want to use this because it's not shareable compared to other technologies that are out there. And so, and when you mention passkeys, you can actually use our card for your personal passkeys. So you could use them at work for work passkey information, and then ours or your home one as well. So it's very flexible. In fact, what we're finding is a lot of CXOs especially are getting hacked at home. They take those passwords and then they spray them into their corporate environment and hope one of them takes. And because people, double up on their passwords. And instead of doing that, you can use the key at home as well as at work.
Right. So,
and Mike, I want to add one thing to you. Mike, we just did something just recent too. We've always been CTAP 2.0 compliant, which means card and a PIN, just like everybody else. We have just
Yeah.
completed our CTAP 2.1 certification with FIDO 2, which now means our card is biometrically aware, and now the card and your finger are all you need. You do not no longer need a PIN to use the card. So before it was
Right.
card, finger, and PIN. If a customer wants that, we can still do that. But now, because of the strength of the biometrics, we've been awarded CTAP 2.1 certification for card and finger with no PIN anymore.
That's great. Yeah, so the fingerprint, the biometric can unlock the key instead of the PIN. By the way, passkeys and FIDO are the same thing now.
Exactly the same thing, yes. Well,
Yeah.
the way it really goes is FIDO cards and stuff, the technology, passkeys are more they consider the software side, like on your mobile device or other things. But as you're 100% correct, they're absolutely the same asymmetrical key.
We've noticed a trend really in fact, we'll have Knock Knock and John Bradley on in an episode that's coming up in a few weeks to talk about how there's this new idea of synced passkeys and passkeys. So a physical card is a non-synced passkey, and like a platform-based authenticator like your Touch ID would be a synced passkey, but they're both passkeys. And one other thing that I've noticed recently is that the usability of passkeys is optimized for platform passkeys. So if you want to use a physical passkey, like the card or a USB key, now you have to like pick some like really advanced guru options in order to even go through that flow. So in my opinion, it's not the type of thing, it's a good use case for high security, high assurance use cases, but it's not something you want to do every day. Because the user experience is optimized for platform authenticators, not for physical keys. But I do think it's a good option to be able to have one key that could be used, for both. Let's say when I log into my account and want to manage my profile, and then maybe I want to enroll some other more convenient passkeys, like the Touch ID or Face ID on my phone. So you could think about perhaps this could be like a derived credential, where you have a high assurance hardware a device that assures only one enrollment, but it's not convenient because the user experience is not optimized for that. It's optimized for like Face ID. But still, I think it can form the strategy of an enterprise deployment for passkeys more broadly. I'd love to talk about.
Can I answer real quick, Mike? I want to add to it because we don't disagree with you at all, and that's part of why what we're doing is also supporting a intermediary version of that. So today, instead of having to have a reader to your on a computer or anything else, which we're releasing is this becomes the reader. So I don't care where you're going, what you're doing. If you're logging into your computer, logging into anything, you can just hold your card to the phone and it does everything exactly the same. Or to your point, the hybrid version, it raises it. Just so you know, there's other things coming.
Right. And what would be the interface? So in order to use this on your laptop, you would need to have an NFC reader on your laptop in order to be able to present the FIDO device to your laptop?
That's an option. There's really three options. A lot of laptops. My laptop I have sitting next to me is a Lenovo. It has an NFC reader built into it. I have Dell computers with NFC readers built into it, so you don't need a third party. Then we work with every other third-party device, whether it's an identity reader, an RFIDs reader, a circle reader, HID reader, doesn't matter. But to your point, we want to get rid of that friction, and now this, which everybody has, becomes the reader. So very shortly, partnerships, every computer, you have the app, and you'll pick your computer, you'll hold your card to the phone, and you're in to get rid of that friction that you mentioned. Very cool, very about.
Mike, I had read the case study regarding the university, I think University of Massachusetts.
Yes.
Could you maybe talk a little bit about that? Because I think all this stuff's very abstract, and sometimes it helps if we can think about an actual customer and how they can put this to use.
Sure, sure. And hopefully we didn't lose Darren there. He's frozen now.
Well,
So
the streaming gods are not collaborating with us right today.
well, the University of Massachusetts is rolling out this card to their students. And of course, it'll have their name on it, have their picture, their student ID. And when they go through their enrollment, they'll go or through their, getting into the classes in their school, they'll enroll the card, right? When they enroll in college. And so there's many use cases for this that is saving and actually helping that college make money. They're passing on the card price in the tuition to the student. If they lose one, they get another one for free. If they lose it twice, it's a $100 charge. All right. And so what are two of the largest fraud cases on college campuses? Well, sharing of parking and sharing of meal plans. Well, we've built an applet to go back to Banner, which is the SAP for colleges. It runs the college's back end. And so we've linked this to their food plans, meal plans, and to their gates for their parking. So there's no more sharing of parking. And, my son and daughter in college, and they don't understand why this is a good thing. What if I want to borrow it and, my buddy is out of town? Well, I paid for your parking and he didn't. And so, so those are two big use cases. We've actually wrote an applet where this will work for Coke machines, snack machines on campus, where you don't have to use a credit card anymore. And so now the college is not paying for all those credit card fees. So it's coming right off their meal plan here. We were talking about enrollment a minute ago, and we were talking about enrolling two fingers. And we found that it's best to do a finger on each hand because when you're getting out of a gate, your left hand comes out the door while you're driving. And so that was something kind of funny that they figured out that they had to do, was make sure they had a left finger on that card. So, but they're also using it for FIDO 2 for their internal use too. So they're logging in using this as well.
Right. And welcome back, Darren. Sorry about that. Streaming gods are not happy with us today.
Darren's back.
And you mentioned, so this was also integrated with their payment system?
Correct. Yeah, Mike, we're talking about
also like soda machines or also not just the meal plan, but they actually were able to save money on transaction cards fee by implementing sort of a wider network and using this as the basis for sort of other transactions?
Yes.
Yeah, we're using a closed loop payment system so that they're not paying any charges to the credit card companies, and they're managing all the funds this way, and they're saving thousands of pounds, thousands of dollars a month by using our closed-end financial systems.
Now, some of these cards I've seen are quite thick. Maybe can you talk a little bit about what, like, is this a normal credit card or is this like a device?
No, it's the same size as a credit card. It is very, very thin. Same credit card thickness. And in fact, we, like you said, we come from the credit card business. And so all we've done is taken that format and made it a secure credential. And one thing that I wanted to mention on the college is one of the things that they really liked at UMass was they knew who exactly was going in their dorms. And so, my daughter's at Texas State down south of Austin. I'd really like to know who's going in and out of her dorms and who belongs there and who doesn't. And so that was huge for them. In fact, their auditors came down and on them and said, hey, we've got to have this to protect our college from lawsuits. So just another little use case.
Darren back in.
He's popping in and out.
And okay, now it looks like you're better.
And Mike, ID card, a 33 to 34 mils thick. Our card is 36 to 30. You cannot tell the difference. If I hold up an HID card with one of ours, literally, if I get them both the same, they're exactly the same. So the reason it's important is because we want to be able to use them in existing printers that are set for a certain thickness for an existing card and ours print in the existing printers.
I see, when you print the card. What so you mentioned that these cards have the ability to draw power from the reader, and that I guess there's an option with and without a battery. But I guess a batteryless card would be really attractive because every card that has a battery has an expiration on it, and if you can ship it without a battery, that means I guess it could last forever.
Yeah, it's
and
a
you
great
can maybe
question.
do some other things, like I saw an illuminating card. Yeah.
Yeah, we do. So let me explain why. So for the past 4 years, we've had to have a battery. It was good for 50,000 transactions because the technology did not allow us to have a fast enough card. Our competitors, their card takes anywhere from 1.5 to 5 seconds power up at the reader, which is very slow. By having the battery here, it started the process before the reader took over, and that's how we achieved 400 milliseconds, or less than half a second. We've moved away, starting in July or August. The new cards will not have a battery at all, and this will be the new card. Different antenna. This is the new card. The reason is we were able to change the antenna and the power requirements on the CPU that we can still achieve the 400 milliseconds without a battery. So we're completely there. And Mike, the other point you make is also for environmental. You don't want to be throwing all these batteries away after 50,000 transactions, which is about 4 to 5 years, but it's an environmental issue that we've just cut down on too, and cost.
Right. And I know I saw the cool, there's LEDs in it. Maybe you could go show a quick demo of that. It's one of the nice.
Yeah, there's OLEDs in card. I'll show you a couple.
Okay.
Here you'll see if I hold it up to the reader, it flashes. Depending on the reader, now this HID reader pulses, so that's why you'll see the card reader, the pulsing. And then in about 12 to 18 months, you'll also see our Edge Glow card, which is very cool. We actually can glow the card, and it's something nobody else can do. We actually can put LEDs on the edge of the card. Very cool for security and added features.
Interesting. And yeah, I like it. And so basically, you could get a custom printed card with your company's logo or your company's color and have it light up and be really well branded.
You're going to see a lot of it in the credit card industry. We're just closed a couple deals with some of the largest credit card companies, and they're going to be using our technology on credit cards.
Interesting. Okay. Well, let's see. What else should we cover?
Mark's got a question. Mark Bycraft.
Okay.
You want to take that, Darren? Because you were.
So
I can't see the question. If you can read it.
How do you solve for parking? It's the car, not the individual given the parking. How do I loan my, I guess this would be a card that you presented a reader, right?
Correct. Just like you do, whether it's the RFIDs reader, an HID reader at the gate, it's what's letting them in, because some of our universities, the kids would share the cards. Like, I'm going to use the card on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I'm going to use the card on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We split the parking cost. Now you can't do that because you got to have your finger on the card when you use it. So that's how they protect happening, and they can't be shared.
Right. So the use cases for this, I've been thinking about it, and I think the compelling use cases are really physical access with logical access as a nice to have. What do you see as the main use cases or for this? And are you just projecting, or what are you seeing from the market?
Well, there's a third use case we'll add to it, but completely agree with you. Physical is very important. At some point here in the U.S., we've got to get away from prox cards because how unsecure they are regardless. But logging into computers, logging into websites, this gets rid of password issues. So you see the logical side, but we also have the crypto card. This is a cold storage crypto that also stores and protects your obviously your crypto well. So we have a huge market going with that as well. And then the credit card market is where you're going to see it. In the U.S. today, we can't biometrics on the credit card. The U.S., we're really not well supported as an infrastructure. The credit cards with the biometrics are really happening in Europe, and hopefully you'll see that soon here as it starts to emerge, because we hand our credit cards off too many times during the day. Times you hand it just going to a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
So those are really the 4 big use cases today.
Mike, maybe you're on the partner side of the business. What types of partners do you see who are signing up to solve some issues with this?
Great question, and thank you for asking that, because I do have our channel business under my title, but we've signed up Digital Era, big partner in South America and Latin America, and getting much bigger in the U.S. SHI is a partner. We partner with on the technical side, Secret Double Octopus, Ping, Techniques, Okta. We work with all those big players, if they're using FIDO too. But Castor Security out of Houston, Data Defense out of the San Antonio and Austin area. So we've got an E+. I mean, we've got partners all over the country going into South America. And we've got the technical side too, and it's growing. And what I'm really happy to see, and I've seen it here recently, is I will approach a new partner and they're going like, where's this been? And I've heard this from customers too, is that we're getting demand for this converged technology. And I'm talking to 2 partners right now where they're going like, I already have opportunities. I don't want to sign up yet because I want to get this opportunity done first. And so they're actually having customers come to them and say, hey, you need to have physical and logical in the same solution. And both of these partners have now got physical sides or silo inside their company that are selling. They're mainly a cybersecurity reseller or VAR, but they're now doing physical as well because of this convergence.
Right. So this is probably going to be a random question, but my wife always complains that her fingerprints are very light. And I'm wondering about the fingerprint reader itself. What's the sensitivity of that? And what's the feedback been so far? Are there edge cases where people just have like very light fingerprints?
So Mike, that's a great question. This is a different type of sensor. Everything we've used in the access control world is a piece of glass that we're taking a high resolution photo. This is actually a capacitant sensor that's being used was on an iPhone and Android, but it's a 3D image sensor that actually reads the X, Y, and Z of your finger. So even if you don't have a lot of shadows, which is what the camera looks for, this reads the X, Y, and Z of it. It's incredible to do that, but it's a full contact sensor. And
is it using electricity or so? Like, how does it actually get the image itself? I'm wondering, how does it get that 3D data?
Well, that's part of what the sensor does when you're putting it on there. We have we can share some videos with you that you can your site of actually a demo of what we're doing with the sensor of how we take the fingerprint, we digitize it, we hash it, we put a 256 AS encryption on it. But it's very cool to see when we take the video and show you how we can tilt your finger and see all aspects of your print.
Interesting. Okay. Well, we have a wiki page for each episode, so we can list that video on the page,
Sure.
and that's always linked for every episode.
And Mike, want to add one other thing too. From the physical side, what's very surprising to probably you and most of your listeners here is we are one of the only full HID partners in the world. So not only can we do their basic procs and their basic I-Class, but we can do the I-Class SE, we can do a full CIAS, Corporate 1000, and we can even do Elite Key for any customer. We are a full HID partner. As long as they sign the forms, HID gives us the licenses and we load them on our card.
So I noticed that in the new generation card, you showed the actual footprint of the electronics was really much smaller. What kind of impact did that have for you in terms of manufacturing the card? Does that make it less expensive to produce? Does it make it? What's the impact of it being so small?
One, it's reduced some of the electronics we need in the PCB boards. It's reduced, the battery reduction has changed and allows us to actually have different areas for the antenna and not affecting it. And to your ask, yes, it has reduced our cost significantly, as our MSRP price on our website shows now. Our average cost now for a card is $23 to $25, where it used to be $36 to $42.
So you guys are not really an identity company, you're really a hardware company. chip company.
We
Where
are
do
a,
you
we
make
are
these
a
cards?
we are a thin tech company, to be honest with you. We can take thin technology that nobody else in the world can, like the OLED screen and these electronics. This is what nobody else can do, is because we can take this and molecularly bond this card, and the only way you can get to it, it's an air gap, is by destroying it to get to it. So it's very cool what we can do.
Where do you actually manufacture this thing? Is it in the U.S. or is it
So
outside the U.S.?
The funny story, because we're in the process of working with the Pentagon and everything, is all of our manufacturing, because they always want to know what country you're manufactured in. So we do all of our manufacturing in the country of Westchester, Pennsylvania. So
Okay, that's great to hear that we still make electronics in the United States.
everything that you see that comes out with our name on it, it comes out of the factory, Westchester, Pennsylvania.
Okay, well, this was sort of a challenging episode with our, but we soldiered through it. And before we call close for the day, I'd like to give you guys a last chance. Maybe Mike, we'll give you first chance. Last thoughts.
Just thank you for having us. I appreciate it. Hopefully the audience understood that this is decentralized, it is unshareable, biometrically protected, and there's nothing else like it in the world. And with all the use cases we could address, give us a shot, and hopefully we can fulfill some of your needs. But again, Mike, thank you so much. And I think there's one more question if you want to address it, or we can move on and I can address it on LinkedIn.
We're at 41 minutes, so we have a second. So the question is on digital wallets. Can these be integrated with digital wallets? So that's a really interesting use case. And at Internet Identity Workshop, there is a discussion sort of going on in the background because there seems to be a lot of overlap. What's the difference between a wallet and a FIDO credential, or at least the authentication part? It's almost like a wallet is an authentication solution that also enables you to create and present claims, to get claims from an issuer and present them to a verifier. So authenticating the person is still a part of this process. And there's some talk about, how can we sort of use FIDO authentication as part of that presentation. And I think, stay tuned on this live stream, because we're going to be digging into that issue. Right now, the digital wallet area is still innovating fast. Which wallet are we talking about? Apple Wallet, Google Wallet, the UD Wallet, the European Union Wallet, other third-party wallets,
Sentry
crypto
wallet.
Sentry
wallet. So there's a lot of wallets. So this conversation about wallets and what authentication mechanisms are presented or are tied to the wallet. This is going to be embedded into the wallet solutions. Open Wallet Foundation is making shared libraries that are will be used probably in the UD wallet and other wallets. So I think, remember that wallets are about claims. It's about me presenting to a verifier claims issued by an issuer. And whereas these cards are really just about authentication, it's about uniquely identifying a person. And that authentication is going to be part of the digital wallet ecosystem. Anyway, we'll stay tuned for future IOH episodes. We might cover that a little bit on the episode with John Bradley. He's working on that, I know, quite deeply. But I think that's going to be a hot topic. Thank you, Morgan, for the question. Darren, last thoughts?
No, just thank you for the time. Thank everybody for attending, and we appreciate everybody's support. And to add to what you're saying here, just so you know, very shortly, we're going to have SSI self-sovereign ID. We're going to have portable medical records and PGP applications built within the cards to bring more value to it. Stay tuned.
Okay, and so yeah, I want to thank everybody for bearing with us on these. Get the right screen. Yeah, so thank you everyone for putting up with our technical glitches today. Next week we're going to talk about transparency performance schema for regulators. how do regulators know that companies are actually complying with the consent requirements in GDPR? I think, or other privacy regulations. So Mark Lazar and Sal will be our guests and co-hosts, and we're going to talk about this. Remember to follow Identerati Office Hours on LinkedIn. We're trying to get to 1,000 followers, and you'll get more exclusive Identerati event notifications. So please follow it. Thank you guys so much for being with us today. I hope everyone is excited about the Sentry card and checks it out. So thank you, Darren. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, audience.
Thank you all. Take care.